Your cat's favourite meal might be slowly destroying its kidneys. That tin you reach for every morning, the one with the happy cat on the label, the one your pet sprints to the bowl for, could be packed with artificial dyes banned across Europe, carrageenan linked to intestinal inflammation, and sodium levels so high they would make a veterinary cardiologist wince. Australian pet owners spend over $2 billion a year on pet food. The industry is largely unregulated, self-governed, and built on packaging designed to make you feel like you're doing something wonderful for your animal, while they quietly absorb toxins with every single meal. Today, we are counting down 10 wet cat food brands sold right here in Australia that you need to remove from your pantry immediately. Stick with us until the end, because we are also going to reveal 3 brands that actually deserve a place in your cat's head. 10. Whiskas. The red pouch that builds an empire on 4% meat. For over 50 years, Whiskas has been the default choice for Australian cat owners. The red packaging, the purring cat and the advertising, the sheer ubiquity of it at every Woolworths and Coles from Brisbane to Perth. That trust has been systematically exploited. When researchers analysed the ingredient list in Whiskas wet pouches, the actual meat content in many varieties sits at just 4%. The rest is water, cereals, sugars, flavour enhancers, and a compound called carrageenan. Carrageenan is a thickening agent derived from red seaweed that sounds almost harmless until you do the research. Independent studies have found it triggers intestinal inflammation in animal models, damages the gut lining, and in degraded form is classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a possible carcinogen. Mars knows this research exists. European consumers pushed back hard enough that formulations differ across markets. Australian consumers simply kept getting the original recipe without explanation. Open a pouch and squeeze the contents onto a plate. Grey-brown paste, gelatinous, uniform, nothing that looks remotely like fish or chicken. The smell is sharp and chemically sweet, more factory than ocean. For senior cats managing kidney disease, the sodium levels in Whiskas exceed veterinary guidelines significantly. Cats with chronic kidney disease, one of the most common conditions in older cats in Australia, need low-sodium diets. Whiskas delivers the opposite. Dine, the meringue of cat food. Dine markets itself on indulgence, sold in gleaming foil pouches at Woolworths nationwide, and consistently ranking among the top-selling wet cat food in Australia. Turn over a Dine pouch and read the sodium content. Some varieties deliver over 450 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams. For a 3-kilogram cat consuming one of these pouches daily, that sodium load is extraordinary. Veterinary nutritionists recommend that cats with any predisposition to kidney or heart disease consume no more than 100 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams of food. Dine is delivering 4 times that recommendation in a pouch marketed for daily feeding. Real meat appears low on the ingredient list, behind water, thickeners, and flavour additives. Also present is artificial flavouring, a catch-all term covering laboratory synthesized compounds engineered to make cats eat food their instincts would otherwise reject. A cat's refusal to eat something is a survival mechanism. Artificial flavours override that mechanism entirely. A Sydney-based feline veterinarian told a pet health forum that she regularly sees cats presenting with urinary tract issues whose primary diet is high-sodium wet food from brands like Dine. She described a pattern so consistent it had become routine in her consulting room. Indulgent packaging, poor ingredients, real consequences. 8. Fancy Feast. The velvet voice, the tuxedo cat, the soft piano music. Fancy Feast has sold a feeling for decades. The feeling of loving your cat properly, of being a devoted and responsible owner. Australian consumers buy it by the tray at Coles and Woolworths, reassured by the premium positioning. Then you read the label. Artificial colours appear in several product lines. Caramel colour, produced through high-temperature processing of carbohydrates, generates a compound called 4-methylenidazole. California's Proposition 65 requires warning labels on products containing significant amounts of this compound due to its cancer-causing properties in animal studies. Fancy Feast uses it without a word of warning to Australian consumers. Multiple varieties contain carrageenan in their gravy products. The gravy is largely thickened water with flavour compounds, delivering almost none of the hydration that wet food should provide, while coating everything in a substance with documented inflammatory properties. Manufactured by Nestlé Purina in the same period that Purina faced consumer backlash in the United States over ingredient quality, Australian store shelves continued stocking the same formulations with no transparency. For cats with inflammatory bowel disease, which is strikingly common in domestic cats, every serving of a carrageenan-containing food is a direct aggravating stimulus. Fancy Feast's artificial colouring dyes food for the human buying it, not the cat eating it. 7. Friskies. Artificial colours banned in multiple countries, sold in every suburb of Australia. Friskies wet cat food fills shelves at ALDI, Woolworths and Coles nationwide. What the packaging does not tell you is that several Friskies varieties contain synthetic dyes, including red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6 and blue 2. These are petroleum-derived colour compounds used to make the food look more appetizing to the human purchasing it. Cats cannot see colour in the same spectrum as humans. The dyes are entirely for your benefit, not theirs. In the European Union, food products containing these dyes require warning labels stating that consumption may have an adverse effect on activity and attention. Several EU member states have moved to restrict or ban them altogether. In the United Kingdom, major manufacturers voluntarily removed them after sustained government pressure. In Australia, Friskies keeps using them because the regulations do not require otherwise. Yellow 5, also known as tartrazine, has been linked to hyperactivity and behavioural disruption across multiple peer-reviewed studies. What it does to a cat consuming it daily for years remains unstudied, because the industry does not fund research designed to expose its own ingredients. Beyond the dyes, Friskies contains carrageenan across its wet product range. A cat eating Friskies daily is consuming petroleum dyes, a probable gut irritant, and insufficient protein to sustain healthy muscle mass over time. 6. Felix. Cheerful artwork, cartoon cat, friendly brand. Felix wet pouches have been a Woolworths and Coles staple for years, targeted at cost-conscious buyers who still want a name brand. The jelly and gravy varieties look like a premium offer at a mid-range price. Examine a Felix pouch carefully. The jelly or gravy, making up a significant proportion of what reaches the bowl is mostly water, stabilizes in gelling agents. Independent analysis places actual meat content at over 15% in several varieties, with cereals, sugars, and thickeners filling the meal. Cats are obligate carnivores. Unlike dogs or humans, their bodies cannot synthesize the amino acids they require from plant sources. They need real muscle meat and organ tissue to obtain taurine, arachidonic acid, and the full amino acid profile their biology demands. Felix does not provide this. Australian pet nutritionists have flagged Felix's carbohydrate content as particularly concerning, given that cats have almost no metabolic need for carbohydrates, and their digestive systems are poorly equipped to process them at all. Chronic high carbohydrate eating in cats is directly linked to obesity, feline diabetes, and inflammatory disease. Felix sells itself as a daily meal. For a species that should be eating almost entirely protein and fat, a daily Felix pouch is nutritional misdirection wrapped in a cartoon. 5. Kit E Cat, the Australian original that forgot what it was made of. Kit E Cat has a longer history on Australian shelves than almost any other cat food brand, and genuine nostalgia attaches to it in households where multiple generations have fed it without question. Manufactured by Mars Australia and available through Woolworths and Coles, that emotional resonance should not be confused with reassurance. Kit E Cat's ingredient list reveals high ash content, a measure indicating the proportion of bone, connective tissue, and low-grade byproducts in the recipe. High ash means high phosphorus, and high phosphorus is a documented agrabah for cats with kidney disease. Feline kidney disease affects an estimated 30 to 40% of cats over 15 years of age in Australia, making phosphorus management one of the most critical dietary concerns for aging cats. Feeding Kit E Cat to a senior cat is placing a known kidney stress in the bowl of the animal, most vulnerable to it. The byproduct content is described generically as meat, byproducts, and animal derivatives. Phrases offering no traceability and no guarantee knowing absolute legal minimum. Pet food industry professionals, writing in an Australian veterinary publication, describe the byproduct supply chain in Budget. Cat food as a race to the bottom, where the cheapest available material from processing facilities is turned into paste and packaged under a trusted name. Kit E Cat is not the product of careful sourcing. 4. Chef. The name sounds intentional. Like the word chef was chosen to suggest craft, skill, and quality ingredients. Chef wet cat food sold through Coles and Woolworths is none of those things. It exists at the base of the price ladder for consumers whose primary metric is cost per serve. At that price point, quality protein is economically impossible. Water dominates the ingredient list, followed by derivatives that provide almost no biological value to a cat. Artificial flavour enhancers are present because without them, the product would be refused by most animals with functioning instincts. Pet food nutritionists distinguish between crude protein, the total nitrogen content in the guaranteed analysis, and digestible protein, the proportion a cat's body can actually absorb and use. Chef's crude protein numbers look acceptable on the label. The digestible protein reality is considerably worse. Meat rendered from low-grade byproducts at high processing temperatures loses much of its amino acid availability. What remains registers on chemical testing, but provides far less nutritional benefit than the figure on the tin suggests. A Melbourne-based veterinary specialist described budget wet cat food as the nutritional equivalent of fast food consumed 3 times daily for an entire life. The short-term effects are invisible. The long-term effects appear in the consulting room as kidney disease, inflammatory bowel disease, and obesity presenting years before they should. Chef is sold as convenience and value. The hidden cost is paid at the vet. 3. Purina 1. The premium deception. The name contains the word one, implying singularity, excellence, the best available option. Purina 1 is priced above the standard Purina ranges and marketed as a step-up option for owners who want genuinely better nutrition for their cats. The advertising promises tailored nutrition and real ingredients. Then you check whether those claims survive the ingredient list. Purina 1, wet varieties for cats contain carrageenan. A product marketing itself is a premium daily nutrition solution, carrying a price premium to match, contains the same inflammatory thickening agent present in every budget brand on this list. The carrageenan is in the gravy, and the gravy is in every single serving. Every day, a cat fed Purina 1 receives a dose of a compound that gastroenterology researchers have demonstrated triggers intestinal inflammation in mammalian models of dietary concentrations consistent with regular feeding. Purina 1 wet food also contains added sugars in several product lines. Cats have no functional taste receptors for sweetness. They cannot taste sugar. The sugar is there to extend shelf life and satisfy a production process engineered for efficiency rather than for the animal consuming it. For Australian pet owners paying a premium for Purina 1 because they trust the name, the ingredient list tells a story the marketing has never once volunteered. 2. Snappy Tom, the budget. Tin with nowhere to hide. Snappy Tom fills the discount sections of pet aisles and variety stores across Australia. The tins are cheerful, the price aggressively low, and that low price is every warning sign you need. At Snappy Tom's price point, quality ingredients are economically impossible by simple arithmetic. The protein in Snappy Tom varieties involves fish byproducts described in vague terms that preclude any meaningful assessment of what is actually present. Fish byproducts can mean heads, tails, frames, viscera, and organs rejected from the human food chain. Histamine content can be elevated, if not processed immediately, post-catch, and heavy metal load depends entirely on the source fishery, which Snappy Tom does not disclose. Elevated histamine in cat food causes a condition presenting as vomiting, diarrhea, and in severe cases cardiovascular symptoms. It is significantly underdiagnosed because owners rarely trace their cat's illness back to a specific meal. The sodium numbers are high throughout the range. For cats that appear healthy, the sodium load is a slow and silent stressor accumulating against cardiovascular and renal systems that will not manifest as diagnosis of illness until significant damage has already been done. The cheerful tin, the undisclosed fishery, the salt they hope you never look up. 1. ALDI channel, zero accountability, maximum market penetration. ALDI's store brand wet cat food, sold under the Champ label at prices undercutting nearly everything else on the shelf, is among the most widely purchased budget cat foods in Australia by total volume. ALDI does not manufacture it. A contract manufacturer produces it to a specification driven entirely by the price ALDI requires. That manufacturer is not disclosed. The sourcing of ingredients is not disclosed. The country of origin of the protein components is not disclosed. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has no specific mechanism compelling pet food manufacturers to disclose country of origin for individual ingredients. The Pet Food Industry Association of Australia sets voluntary standards that ALDI Champ technically satisfies, because those standards were written by the industry to be satisfiable without meaningful cost. What those standards do not require is supply chain transparency, limits on sodium relative to veterinary guidelines, or verification of digestible protein. ALDI Champ is legal. It meets the minimum bar. It costs less than a cup of coffee per day to feed a cat, and it delivers an unknown protein from an unknown source in an unknown country, manufactured at a facility you cannot name, in a formula you cannot verify, for an animal whose future veterinary bills will eventually reflect every corner cut inside that tin. The tins remain on the shelf unchanged. Now you know what is sitting inside those tins. carrageenan, causing gut inflammation. Artificial dyes banned across Europe and the United Kingdom. Sodium levels exceeding veterinary guidelines for cats already developing kidney disease. Undisclosed supply chains and anonymous byproducts that no label will ever explain. Your cat has been eating this. Many of you have been feeding these brands with genuine love and genuine care because the packaging said all the right things and the price seemed responsible. The industry relied entirely on that trust. But the story does not end here, because 3 brands available right now at Pet Barn, Petstock, and specialty pet retailers across Australia are doing this properly. Ziwi Peak, New Zealand born and built on a principle that should be industry standard. Ziwi Peak wet cat food contains between 92 and 96% meat, organs, and seafood in every recipe. That number alone is extraordinary in a category where 4 to 15% is the norm. Ingredients are sourced from New Zealand's ethically raised livestock and sustainable coastal fisheries. There is no carrageenan, no artificial flavouring, no added sugar, no artificial colour appears anywhere in the range. Ziwi Peak meets nutritional adequacy standards for all life stages, supporting cats from kittenhood through senior years without supplementation. Open a tin and you find real shredded meat fibres, organ tissue, and a broth that forms naturally in the cooking process, rather than being engineered by a synthetic thickener. The smell is clean and protein-forward. For cats managing chronic kidney disease, Ziwi Peak produces specific lower phosphorus formulation. For cats with inflammatory bowel disease, the absence of carrageenan removes one of the most common dietary triggers. It costs significantly more than Whiskas. But the veterinary costs avoided by feeding your cat properly from the start are measurably greater than any difference at the supermarket shelf. Feline Natural, another New Zealand brand earning its place through complete transparency. Feline Natural wet food uses 100% New Zealand sourced meat and fish, with no fillers, no grains, no artificial additives, and no carrageenan anywhere in the range. The company publishes full nutritional analysis for every product, including digestible protein figures and phosphorus levels, information that budget brands are legally permitted to withhold and routinely do. The ingredient lists are short, and every item is recognizable as an actual food component. Venison and lamb, chicken and lamb, green tripe and lamb. These are building blocks of a diet reflecting what a cat's biology actually requires. Feline Natural is available at Pet Barn and Petstock locations across Australia and through specialist pet retailers in major cities. Australian cat owners who have switched from supermarket brands to Feline Natural consistently describe improvements in coat condition, energy levels, digestive regularity, and reduced hairballs frequency, all measurable indicators of improved gut function and nutrient absorption. These outcomes reflect the real difference between a diet designed for a cat's biology and one designed for a retailer's market. Applaws, for the cat owner who wants genuine quality without the specialist pricing. Applause Wet Cat Food, a UK brand widely available in Australia from Pet Barn and independent specialty retailers, uses a minimum 70% real meat or fish in every recipe and states that for the approval of every one. No carrageenan, no artificial flavour enhancers, no added sugar. The ingredient lists are short enough to review under a minute. Applause is certified as a complementary feed rather than a sole complete diet, performing best when rotated with a nutritionally complete option. But for a household managing cost while refusing to compromise on ingredient quality, it delivers genuine and verifiable value. The fish varieties use whole tuna or whole salmon, not byproducts, not derivatives, not material rejected from the human food supply. Sodium levels sit within the veterinary recommended range for healthy adult cats. For a brand accessible to most Australian households by price, Applaws represents what the entire category should be doing and largely refuses to consider. Go to your pantry right now. Pick up every pouch and tin you have been feeding your cat this week. Find the sodium figure. Look for the meat content percentage. Search the ingredient list for carrageenan and for artificial colour compounds. If you see any of the 10 brands from today, do not wait until the current stock runs out. Your cat cannot read a label. Your cat cannot make this decision. You are making it for them every single day. Switch to Ziwi Peak, Feline Natural, or Applaws and give your animal the diet their biology was built for. The industry counts on the fact that cats cannot speak and owners cannot see the cellular damage accumulating until it becomes a diagnosis in a veterinary consulting room. You just remove that advantage from them. If today changed how you think about what is inside that tin, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More investigations are coming. Dangerous products hiding in plain sight on every supermarket shelf across Australia. Stay sharp and take care of your animals.